This is the halftime show with Omar Adori on Pulse 95.
Nice strike! Oh, better than nice! Wonderful!
Let's get ready to rumble!
Yes, we are back and we are live on Pulse 95 Radio. Shout out to everyone who's tuned in, wherever you're tuned in around the world, whether it's 95 FM, pulse95radio.com, our app, Sharjah Broadcasting Authority, and even chilling at home watching us live on YouTube. Thank you very much for connecting with us today. And what a treat I have for you today. We talk about hitting heights, but this show just took a whole different leap after who I've got on the show today. Karen Leon is on the show today. She's an Australian-born health and fitness advocate who holds a BA in medical science, a Grad Dip, and international health, and also is a health coach. But that's not all what she is. In 2015, Caroline fell from an outdoor rock climbing wall in the UAE. She was immediately rushed to hospital with life-threatening injuries that included 2 shattered feet, a displaced and fragmented right pelvis that was no longer connected to the left side of her body, and a bust fracture to part of her spine. Now that's just the toppings that we're talking about, because she's been through so much in her career. Not only that, she is inspiring thousands and thousands of people. We're going to be talking to her right after the break. We're going to play some we're in that kind of acoustic mood, but we're also in that kind of good mood. So Mustafa, don't worry, I'm going to have these tunes for you ready. Maria Come Through is on next, so I'm sure you're going to be enjoying that. Stay tuned on the only place to be at 3, the halftime show on Pulse 95.
Oh, he lifts the fire, then what a goal!
This is the halftime show with Omar Adori on Pulse 95.
Nice strike! Oh, better than nice! Wonderful!
Let's get ready to rumble!
Yes, we are back and we are live, and I hope you're having a fantastic Saturday wherever you're tuned in around the world. Shout out to Hadel, who normally is tuned in from New Jersey and is in London at the moment. And also, thank you very much for everyone who showed up yesterday at the Al Majaz Amphitheatre. We had so much fun. Myself and Aisha Al-Mazmi were giving out prizes yesterday, and oh my God, the whole night was topped off by the most beautiful angel who was 3 years old, who sang Biladi. If you haven't checked it out, check out my Instagram stories at Omar Duri. Oh my God, I was melting yesterday. Anyway, we've got a fantastic guest on the show today. Caroline Leon is in the building. Oh my God. How you doing?
I'm doing well.
Yeah, we made it. We finally made it, and we're here. And thank you very much for coming on the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Now, I was talking about some of the things that you went through, and already on the Instagram, people were saying, wow, and ouch, and all sorts of things. How did you fall in love with mountaineering?
I think, so I'm an Australian, and I think it's part of Australian culture. We grow up swimming and outdoors and hiking and just being in nature, and I think it was embedded in my body just to be in love with nature. And I think it's a really symbiotic relationship. I really need to be in the outdoors. It's good for my mental health, and the outdoors apparently needs me too.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And you've, I'm looking at the stuff here. You've gone to, your journey included Turkey, Iran, Syria, Lebanon, Egypt, Jordan, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, Oman, and the UAE. And since your Guinness attempt, Caroline has gone to speak publicly about mindset healing and traveling across the Middle East, and shared her story with TEDx. I'm in awe right now. As a result of the expedition, Caroline was awarded the Hero of the Year award. What's that like when you've got all that under your belt?
I'm not sure what it's like, to be honest. I try not to really think about it. I just try and think about doing stuff that's really authentic to me. And I know after I had my accident, so it took me 4 years after my accident to kind of heal and recover and start walking. And I remember climbing the first mountain, which is a little mountain in Australia. And when I got to the summit of that mountain, I was just so alive and so happy. And I wanted to do something else. And I wanted to do something that would definitely draw the line across the sand. Like I could never be disabled after I did this, whatever it was at the time. And I was searching on Guinness and scouring Guinness for something incredible to do. And I realized that no one had tried to climb all the mountains in the Middle East. And I've lived here for the last 13 years. The Middle East is my home, and I love this region. I love this place, and what a beautiful way to honor it than to actually go and see all of it. And so I just did it. So it's not anything that I think about. It's just me trying to be authentically me. And in the process of doing that, I just ended up going to every country in the Middle East.
Just casually.
Yes.
Just casually. Oh, wow. There's a couple of heavy words you mentioned there, and we're going to take a quick break for the prayers, but I'm just going to go over them. Disabled is a heavy word. I'm not at ease with that word, and you say it so casually, and what you've overcome has been remarkable, to say the least. Once we come back from the break, I'm gonna ask you about that and a bunch of other things as well. Okay, so don't go anywhere, please. We'll be right back after this.
Oh, he loves the fire then. What a goal!
This is the halftime show with Omar Adori on Pulse 95.
Nice strike. Oh, better than nice. Wonderful.
It sure is that time. It's the halftime show with Omar Duri. I'm your host, cover everything sport, international, local. Shout out to everyone who's tuned in, and thank you very much for all your comments and your lovely, lovely emojis as well. We're in that kind of mood today. Caroline Leon is in the building, and she is here talking to us about her experiences, about mountaineering, about... we left... Just before the break, we left you on a cliffhanger, yes, pun intended, as she said the word disabled. And I was kind of like, that's a heavy word. And she looked at me, she smiled. And I noticed that it's also on your Instagram as well. The doctors said to you that you may no longer walk again, but yet you're still doing what you're doing, and you still kind of defied that. Tell me more about, firstly, the injury, how it happened, and then walk me through that process.
So I was basically out on an outdoor rock climbing wall, and I decided very stupidly to climb the wall unharnessed. Completely my fault. Like, I had been very adventurous in the sense that I'd climbed loads of cliffs before in my life. I'd seen cliffs and then just, on your bare hands and feet climbed the whole thing. 100-meter cliffs with rocks and water at the bottom. And so I climbed this outdoor rock climbing wall, and when I got to the very top, I kind of put my hands over this little beam, and I remember looking out into the sunset, and I just had this little ping in my heart. And I remember looking for another way to go down the wall. And at the center of the wall was this dilapidated staircase that was made out of iron. But I had to almost crawl along the beam, and we're 14 meters off the ground, and then cross this 1 meter gap to the other beam, and then descend through the staircase. And I decided, no, that was too dangerous. So I went down the same way that I came up, and the first peg or inklet that I put my hand into, it just came off the wall. And the last thing I remember seeing is my hand in the air, and then I just plummeted.
Ooh.
And I landed on my feet onto gravel, and my feet shattered, and my pelvis smashed, and my whole right leg disconnected from my body, and my pelvis moved up into my rib cage, but it shattered essentially, and my pubic bone snapped off, and then my spine burst. And I lay on my back for a few moments completely conscious, and a few seconds later I decided to roll onto my side, completely ignoring all of the first aid training. They say never move.
Yeah.
So I rolled onto my side, and I felt all the bones in my body move separately. They went dung, 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 dung. And I lay on my right side thinking to myself, oh wow, that really shouldn't happen. And there was something really uncomfortable about laying on my right side. I didn't realize at the time that it was because it was completely broken. And so I rolled over onto the left side and felt boom, 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 boom. And then I stayed on my left side and I started hearing people around me, and my focus just got really, really small. And I was just looking at the sand in front of me, just listening to my heartbeat. And I remember the sand in front of me turning red. And at the time, you kind of lose your sense of understanding reality, because I could see that it was red, but I didn't connect that it was red because it was me, it was my blood.
Yeah.
And people around me were talking about my feet. They were like, something was really wrong with my feet. And I didn't realize my right foot had actually come out of my body and was like out. And I just lay there essentially until I felt someone tap my right shoulder. And he was saying my name really loudly. And then he was like, Caroline, can you hear me? Can you listen to my instructions? Can we turn you around? And it was the paramedic, and he was explaining to me what they were doing. So he put something on my neck, and then they put this gurney behind me, and then they rolled me onto my back. And he was just, touching my leg. Can you feel this? Can you feel this? Can you breathe? Lots of questions. And then before I knew it, I was in an ambulance and I was in a hospital, and I ended up being in hospital for 2 months. And obviously, as you mentioned, I had 14 surgeries and 23 blood transfusions, like day after day after day. I would have a huge surgery to reconstruct part of my body and multiple blood transfusions, and then I would just wait. And then 3 or 4 days later, another huge surgery, and then another huge surgery. And by the time I left the hospital, I couldn't sit up, I couldn't walk, I couldn't roll onto my side, I couldn't go to the bathroom on my own, I couldn't do anything. I was literally flat on my back for a good almost a year.
When was this?
This was 6 years ago, yeah.
Wow, does it feel like a longer time, a shorter time? So lots happened in that time.
Yeah, look, time is an interesting concept, because in some stages it goes very quickly, and in other parts it goes very slowly. And now I look back and I can't comprehend that was me in that place. But at the time it was very real, and it was very, very hard. Yeah.
And then, so you've been in and out of surgeries and hospitals, and the doctors said to you that you may not walk again. Now, you spoke about mental health again earlier. You said something that how this helps with your mental health. At that stage, what's going through your mind?
It's an interesting place, because you are in such a... Basically, people are looking after you 24 hours a day. Like, you have someone that comes and cleans your body and washes your body and then changes your nappies and changes your catheters and they keep you alive. And so you are really dependent on so many people. But when you leave hospital and you end up in a hospital bed at home, it really is just, it's you. And it's you and you. And you almost kind of dissect into two personalities. And one is in your favor and wants you to get better and wants you to be the best version of yourself and wants you to get off this wheelchair. And the other version of you that kind of starts to grow out of this is like, you're never leaving this bed ever. You're never going to walk. You're never going to have a job or a career again. You're never going to do anything. And the overwhelming sense of, oh my God, that's my reality, can be a lot. And so for me, I think I've spoken about this quite a lot. It's a lot about how do I feed the part of me that is in doing things for my best favor. Yeah. And like being outdoors and eating well and exercising, they're feeding the good parts. And so I just turn the volume down on the stuff that isn't going to get me where I want to be, really, essentially. It's still me, but it's the darker part. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It makes sense, but for those people that are going through similar things or even their own challenges, so to speak, how do you advise them to reset? How do you advise them to get themselves back on track?
I think your environment plays a lot in how you manage your own mental health. So improving that first. So for me, it was like nutrition and making sure that I sleep really well and that I eat really well and that I exercise and that I hydrate, because the biochemistry of your body is completely influenced by those things. But then on a deeper level, it's listening. So you are taking in information every single day, and so absorbing the right type of information. So I listen to things that are going to propel me in a positive direction, people that are inspiring, people that are there to support me in that process as well, and who are also doing it for themselves. That's really important. I forgot your question. What was it?
No, actually you answered it. I was talking about how you reset and eliminate the negative thoughts and focus on the thoughts that are feeding, you know, your nervous system and your sympathetic versus your parasympathetic, all these different things. It just sounds so surreal, like the way that you're talking about it now from how it was before. Once you've kind of got to that stage where it's like, okay, now I'm trying to do the right thing by getting my environment, my exercise, my nutrition, everything right, what happens next?
Honestly, this is spanning like years. But initially it was just making myself really comfortable. Like I started to feel really irritated laying on my back. And so I had nurses that would help me roll onto my side. So it would take 4 nurses. They would roll me on my side. I could only tolerate it for a minute, but then it would make me feel better. And so I was doing these very, very small incremental things that just made this massive difference to my mood. And then I was like, oh my God, I can roll onto my side. What else can I do? And so it was just like one day I could move my toes and then I could wiggle my leg and they were just huge. Like I can move my toes, I can wiggle my leg, and then I was like, okay, I know I'm going to be able to sit up. I can do this. And so my physio was like, you know, press the machine on the hospital bed and every day like zzz, like sit up and stay sitting up for 5 minutes. And I would look at the clock and I was sweating, just going like looking at that 5-minute mark. And as soon as it was 5 minutes, zzz, I would lay down and then like collapse because it was exhausting and you're in so much pain, like mammoth's amount of pain that it becomes unbearable. And so little things like that, then the next day it's 6 minutes and then it's like, oh, okay, I can sit up. Now I needed someone to teach me, like, all right, I need to be in a wheelchair. I need to move to a wheelchair on my own because I can't have someone pick me up all the time. So it was little really incremental gains. And then once I started to get confidence in myself, then I went crazy and I started to do silly things. Like I would get a disabled taxi to come to my house and I would get into my wheelchair on myself and then I'd be like, I'm going to the mall on my own.
Wow.
Things like that. I was definitely not ready for things like that, but I think it was, I had to try. I had to go to the mall on my own and then realize, no, home is so much safer and better. So I had, some interesting experiences.
Very cool. Right, we're going to take a quick break. Hello, Benoit, to you too, man. Thank you for connecting us. And Mustafa saying ouch and hats off to you as well. We'll take a quick break. We're going to play some Rudimental. Sun comes up. This is one of my favorite artists, James Arthur, out there. Enjoy this track and we'll be right back after the break.
Oh, he loves the fire then. What a goal!
This is the halftime show with Omar Adori on Pulse 95.
Nice strike! Oh, better than nice! Wonderful!
It sure is that time. It's the halftime show with Omar Duri. I'm your host, covering everything sport, international, local. If you are kicking yourself for missing the show, don't worry, you can catch all of our podcasts on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, or if you prefer a visual and want to see our guest in the flesh, then head over to our YouTube channel, Pulse 95 Radio, and you get to see me interview some fantastic guests. We've had some questions here already coming through, and normally I do save it till the final segment, but because it's fire, I'm not even sure if we're going to be able to get all these questions in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with you guys now. Mustafa, you asked a question. You said to Karen, did she ever visit back the accident location?
Yes, I have. I went back a couple of years ago.
How did that feel?
At first it was really surreal, and then I just found the silver lining. First I cried, and then I found the silver lining, which was like I had to make something great out of this. I learned a lesson. I did something really stupid, and now I just have to dust myself off, pick myself up, and just do the best that I can. So
dust yourself off and try again. We've got another question here from AK saying, most valuable lesson she learned from her experience.
I learned so many valuable lessons. One thing that I really that really stuck with me. A lot of people say that the UAE can be very superficial. It's glitzy and there's so much glamour, and I actually found the complete opposite. I found so many people were so generous with their time. Everybody wanted to help me. I actually had no insurance at the time, so I had a GoFundMe, and people raised 150,000 dirhams for my hospital bills.
Wow.
I had friends buying me a hospital bed and wheelchairs, and people just so unbelievably generous. And I really owe that to the UAE. They were just amazing. And it was my local friends and my friends from abroad, friends everywhere. People really band together when you're in need. Yeah, when you're in need, yeah. And that's what I found, that people were so beautiful and generous, and I really learned how to reciprocate that generosity.
I like that. Another question here. You must have had some really dark days. What kept you going?
Oh, I had so many dark days. Well, one thing that kept me going, and I actually still do this today, is I listen to really good stuff all the time. So I listen to amazing, interesting podcasts. Most of my Instagram is disabled athletes that are just doing unbelievably incredible things. And so listening to that, having it in my mind all the time, makes me want to be better than the dark voice inside my head.
No, that makes sense. And you've had a lot of experience, obviously, with different energies, and every mountain breeds a different energy. You've summited, obviously, a lot of mountains. Can you tell us a little bit about the different mountains that have different energies?
Yeah. I am very superstitious in the sense that I really believe that land has a lot of meaning to it. And all of the mountains that I've gone to, I've learned something really profound in each of them. And afterwards, I learn the story of the mountain and the mythology, and then it gives me this contextual idea of what this mountain represents. For example, I was saying this story to you about Kilimanjaro. She is one of the most beautiful mountains, and I really feel like she wakes up your sleeping spirit. So when people go climb her, something happens to them, and they just, like, it's a very hard process to be on that mountain, but it wakes you up and it makes you want to do these amazing, inspiring things. I know people who have not been interested in mountains at all. They go climb Kilimanjaro, and next they're like, I'm doing the 7 summits, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing that. And I've seen it enough times now that I look at her, Kilimanjaro, and I think to myself, that's your energy. You wake up people's sleeping spirit. So that's what I've dubbed her.
I like the way you keep saying her, like it's a person. And for me, that's new, because obviously I don't know half of the things you've been through, and you've got a chance to experience these amazing things. The way you're saying her and the way you're referring to this mountain is as if it's an actual living person.
Yeah, because it feels like that.
Yeah.
Like it's really interesting. Have you ever seen like 14 Peaks, that Netflix documentary?
Just recently.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you get to the very beginning, you see them saying a prayer to the mountain. So the mountain, like even Everest, she has a spirit, and before you go onto her, you say a prayer and you ask for permission to go onto this sacred land, because that's essentially what you're doing. And in some cultures, like the Tibetan cultures, they actually think that when you do a pilgrimage, you pilgrim to a sacred land, and they normally do this across mountain ranges. And so for a lot of religions, a mountain is sacred.
Can you tell me, if you could label some of the mountains that you've summited with like a word or two, can you throw some my way?
Yeah.
Go on.
So I'll give you, when I was on Mount Hermon in Syria, she is ethereal, would be the word that I would use for that mountain. Supposedly, Christ climbed that mountain and he drank from a stream, like Jesus Christ. And so it's very interesting to go to some of these historical places and and be standing there thinking, oh my God, there was someone who stood here 2,000 years ago and drank from this well. So that's ethereal. When I went to Mount Ararat in Turkey, Noah's Ark is supposedly buried on that mountain.
Nice.
And you look at the landscape and it's so beautiful. You have the clouds underneath you and the sky is just this iridescent purple and pink, and you see the sun setting, and it feels like, oh, this is what heaven looks like. Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
It's just the landscape. It's just so beautiful.
Give me one more.
One more. Oh, I'm under pressure. So the other mountain that I really liked is Mount Damavand.
Okay.
She's a little bit different in the sense, I would actually say it's a he, and he's a little bit darker.
How can you tell the difference?
I don't know. I don't know. I can't tell the difference really, but just Mount Damavand is a bit, it's like it makes you have a battle with yourself. About like good versus evil. And this is what happened to me anyway. The entire time on that mountain I can't do this, I can do this, I can't do this, I can do this, I can't, and I was battling with myself. And when I learnt the story of the mountain after, I realized, oh, this is the spirit of this mountain and this is what it evokes. And the victor is obviously always good. Good always prevails, but you have to have that battle with yourself really to see what you're made of and to see who's going to win. So there you go.
I told you I was going to spoil you guys. Right, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back after the break. We're playing some Mr. Easy, Go Out of My Way. Here we go.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Yes, we are back and we are live. And apologies for those who are tuning on the Instagram live, as Karen exposed me earlier. Someone was trying to call me and they were adamant on getting through. But now we're back and everyone can hear me now and they can hear her, which is even more important. Mustafa had asked you a question earlier about how you handled the accident and everything. And not only that, Ali is just jumped in and he's like, so what are we talking about? All right, Ali, so let me... Let's just start the whole show again for you, Ali. No, joking. Actually, fantastic. The topic today is hitting heights with Caroline Leon. She's done some amazing things. I've said something here earlier while we were off air, and you said it so casually. Right. To mark the end of her recovery, in which she fully regained the ability to walk unassisted, Caroline endeavored to set a new Guinness World Record to be the first woman in the world to summit all the mountains in the Middle East and the Arabian Peninsula, a feat that had never been attempted by a woman alone. Just cash. You know when you try and show off to your friends and you say, you know what, today, I slept 8 hours. And then you have something like that on your resume. That is crazy. That must feel incredible.
Honestly, it was one of the most beautiful experiences I had to go to every country in the Middle East. It was crazy. As in, it was some days I was visiting 3 countries in one day. So I went to Bahrain, Kuwait, and Oman in one day. That was insane. That's
insane. She's just like, that's insane. That's crazy. It's amazing. Terry's back on here. I don't think she heard you earlier. I think we had an audio issue, but she was saying you must have had some really dark days. What was the thing that you focused on to get through those days? Did you have a single thing that you focused on to get through the dark days, or was it something that you planned out? Did you map it out? How did that go?
Oh, no, there was no planning. You can't plan things like that. You can definitely, what I focused on was walking. That was it. I was going to sit up. I was going to shower myself. I was going to get into a wheelchair, and every day I was going to do something to make that easier. And eventually I was like, oh, I can sit up, I can do this, I can do that. And then one day I remember so I had obviously my feet, one of my feet had 7 surgeries on it and the other one had 3. And I wasn't allowed to actually physically stand on them for about 3.5 months. And when that time period passed, obviously there was lots of other issues with my spine and my pelvis, but I remember several months later I stood up for the first time and I realized actually that I didn't know how to stand anymore. My feet weren't feet, they couldn't work anymore, they didn't know how to move, but I could stand. And I remember that moment because in my mind it was like, oh, if I can stand, I can certainly walk.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to walk, but I know that I could. And so I just started to visualize it and imagine it every single day. So I was imagining myself getting dressed and walking.
How important is visualization and manifesting those kind of beliefs when you're in those kind of times?
I think it's the only way because as someone, look, I speak only from my own personal experience. I can't speak for anybody else, but I know for me it was about I have a voice that is very dark and I have a voice that is very light. And if I give any airtime to the voice that's saying, oh, you're never going to walk, then I'm actually never going to walk. And so I just had to shut it out completely. And what I did to do that was to listen to podcasts and movies and videos, and I was actually just watching educational content. I wasn't watching Netflix or any TV shows. I was listening to Gaia, and I was listening to this channel at the time that was called Food Matters TV, and I was watching documentaries about people healing themselves and what they did, and listening to Tony Robbins and listening to all of these other inspirational speakers. There's an Australian man, I can't remember his name, but he has no arms and legs. I listened to a lot of him. Just
Blakovich or something like that.
Really inspirational people, and I was listening to it all the time. And the second that I took those earphones off, it was just my voice again, and my voice was like, you're not going to walk. And so I would, no, I'm not listening to that voice anymore. And eventually what started to happen is that their voices became my voices, and then I started to believe everything that I was listening to, and the little dark voice got smaller and smaller and smaller until it just had no more space in my mind.
Amazing. Wowzers. Okay. Someone here said, Rita said, 7 surgeries. No, actually, according to here, 14 surgeries, 23 blood transfusions, and 2 years of extensive rehab. Yes, that's what we have on file.
Yeah, the 7 surgeries was on one foot.
On one foot. She had 7 on one foot. It was at the right foot.
Yeah.
And then 3 on the left. And then AK is saying, that's why we need a special episode on power of subconscious mind. I like it, AK. I like the way you're thinking now. Terry saying you're an absolute inspiration. Now, with all these people that are listening to you right now and on YouTube and on Instagram, and they're saying, you've inspired them. I think it's not necessarily how often you post. I think it's when you do. There are people out there listening, and I'm sure they want to see and listen more to the things that you say. And so for that, everyone at the Halftime Show and everyone that's listening here, please make sure you follow her. She's been terrific on the show. And as AK said, a special episode should be coming up after this one. Ali is saying, 2013, I had a huge car accident, didn't break a bone, but my nerve system got messed up. Had to think about my movements, and this took almost a year. Absolutely, Ali, and again, listening to Caroline and listening to Ali, make those kind of comments, you go through things, but having people like this around really does help eliminate those voices that you don't want to hear and focus on the voices that you do. How was your experience on the Halftime Show?
It was amazing. Thank you.
You did great. Remember, guys, you can catch us every Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, 3 to 4 UAE time on Pulse 95 Radio. And also, if you're out and about today, head down to Al Majaz Amphitheatre in Sharjah. Wow, yesterday we had so much fun. Today, Mikhail Atiyah and Anna Schofield are going to be there giving away prizes. So please do make sure you head down there and support them. It was fantastic yesterday. We had a great time, myself and Aisha Al-Mazmi. And that is full time on the Halftime Show. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
A pleasure. All right, guys, I will be back here on Monday, same time, same place, on the only place to be at 3, the Halftime Show on Pulse 95.
If you liked this episode of The Halftime Show, drop a like and subscribe.
95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories.